In the dark silence of deep space, a small exploration ship floated quietly. Its name was Orion 9. The crew had been traveling for months, searching for lost signals, hidden planets, and forgotten places. They had almost given up when a strange signal reached their system. It was soft at first, just a few broken sounds. Then it became clearer. It was not machine noise. It was a voice, a human voice. Captain Ellen looked at her crew, confused. There should be no human this far out. She said the signal was coming from a dead alien planet called Eos X7. According to the records, no life had ever been found there. No humans, no colonies, nothing. Still, the signal repeated, help, alive, waiting. The crew had no choice. They turned the ship and moved toward the planet. As they entered the atmosphere, they saw nothing but dark rock, sandstorms, and sharp mountain ranges. The sky was gray and the land looked dead. But in the middle of a broken valley, something stood tall, a black structure, large and ancient. It was the source of the signal. They landed near the structure and stepped out. The air was thin, but enough to breathe with gear. The wind howled softly, as if whispering secrets from long ago. The ground was dry and cracked. Broken alien machines were spread around, silent and rusted inside the structure. The walls were smooth and cold. Strange symbols ran along the sides, glowing faintly. The crew followed the signal deep into the building. No one spoke. Their footsteps echoed through the empty halls. Then they saw it. In the center of a large chamber was a pod. It glowed with soft blue light. Inside it was a man, human, eyes closed, not dead, sleeping. "Is this possible?" whispered one of the crew. Captain Ellen stepped closer. The man looked young, but peaceful, his face calm. The technology around him was alien, nothing from Earth. Then the pod made a sound. Hiss, gas released from the sides. Lights blinked faster. The man opened his eyes. His voice was dry, quiet. "You came." The crew stared in shock. The man sat up slowly, looked around the room, and touched the floor. "I've been waiting," he said again. "For 10,000 years, nobody moved." The silence was heavy. Finally, Captain Ellen asked, "Who are you?" The man smiled weakly. "My name is Cale. I was left behind." "How long have you been here?" she asked again. Cale looked up, eyes empty and full at the same time. "Time works differently here, but long, very long." The crew began scanning the area, trying to understand how he could still be alive. His body showed no signs of aging or damage. His DNA was human, fully human, but the tech around him was nothing human had ever built. Asterisk, are you from Earth?" another crew member asked. Cale paused. "Yes, and no. I was born near Earth, but not like others. They made me. The ones who lived here." Ellen frowned. "Aliens." Cale nodded. "They were kind once, but war changed them. It changed everything." He stood up slowly, weak from the long sleep. He looked around the chamber with sad eyes. "This place," he said, "was once full of life. Now, only shadows remain." The crew followed him as he walked down another hallway. Lights came on as he passed, like the building remembered him. He pointed to the walls. "These were memories," he said. "Stories, warnings." One of the crew touched the wall. Images flashed: battles in space, cities destroyed, strange creatures floating in the air. One thing was clear: a great war had ended this world. Cale turned back to the group. "You should not have come here," he said. "Your arrival has awakened more than me." "What do you mean?" Ellen asked. Cale looked at the floor. "Something sleeps below, something I was meant to guard. For thousands of years I waited, alone. I hoped no one would find me. But now that you have, the clock has started again." The ground shook slightly. A distant rumble echoed through the chamber. "Everyone froze." Cale whispered. "They're waking up." No one knew what they meant, but fear passed through the crew like cold wind. The silence of the dead world was gone. Something ancient had felt their presence. The captain tried to call the ship. No signal. Cale walked to a panel on the wall. His fingers moved quickly. The alien tech responded to him like he belonged to it. A screen appeared, showing tunnels deep underground. Something was moving. The crew looked at each other. Cale stepped forward. "I'm sorry," he said. "I didn't want this, but now that you're here, we have to finish what was started." The lights flickered. Outside, the wind changed direction, and below the surface, something opened its eyes. Asterisk. The crew stood in silence. Deep inside the alien structure, dust floated in the air. Small lights blinked along the walls, like the building was slowly coming back to life. Cale looked around, his eyes calm but distant, like someone remembering a dream from long ago. Captain Ellen kept her hand near her weapon, just in case. "Cale," she said carefully, "we need answers. What are you? And what's waking up below us?" Cale turned to face her. "I am human, but I am not from your time. I was born 10,000 years ago, or more. I was made to survive the fall of this world." The youngest crew member, Lyra, stepped closer. "Who made you?" Cale walked slowly to a broken panel on the wall. He wiped off the dust. Underneath, glowing shapes formed a star map, systems, planets, and ancient paths through the galaxy. He touched one point. "They were called the Elysians," he said, "a race older than memory. They were creators, builders, teachers. I was one of their final experiments." "An experiment?" Ellen asked. Cale nodded. "They wanted to save what was left of life, so they made me from the DNA of a human traveler, a crash survivor. They gave me memory, training, and a mission to protect their last secret." The ground rumbled again. The crew looked around nervously. Lights above flickered. Something below was moving slowly, but surely. "What secret?" Ellen asked. Cale took a long breath. "They built a machine under the surface, not just a weapon, not just a vault, a mind, a living core that held everything they knew. If it wakes up, it won't understand your presence. It will see you as a threat. Can we shut it down?" asked Lyra. Cale shook his head. "Not without a key. That's why I exist. I am the key. But I was not meant to open it. Only to wait." Captain Ellen stepped forward. "Then let's leave. We didn't mean to start anything. We'll go back to our ship and report this to command." Cale looked away. "You won't make it to your ship. The system knows you're here. It sees you now. It thinks the war has returned." Another tremor shook the ground. Small stones fell from the ceiling. Somewhere far below, a heavy door opened with a deep, slow hiss. The crew turned to the nearest screen. The underground map showed movement, something large, coming toward the surface. Asterisk, Lyra whispered. "Why is it coming now? What triggered it?" Cale answered quietly. "I think I did. When I woke up, my body sent a signal. It was part of the design. I had no choice." Ellen spoke quickly. "Then we have to move. Is there a way out?" Cale nodded. "There is a passage hidden, old, but still usable." They followed him through a narrow hallway lit by soft blue lights. As they walked, Cale explained more. "The Elysians trusted me, but they feared humans too. They had seen how humans fought among themselves, how they built weapons to destroy each other. That's why they chose me, part human, but trained by them. They hoped I could choose peace." Lyra asked, "Did the Elysians all die?" Cale didn't answer at first. Then he said, "They vanished. Some think they died in the war. Others believe they left this galaxy. But before they went, they locked their last knowledge deep below. I was left here to protect it, or stop it." They reached a round metal door. Cale placed his hand on a small panel, and the door slid open with a deep groan. Beyond it was a narrow tunnel, winding down into darkness. Suddenly, alarms rang in the distance, soft at first, then louder. The ancient building was waking up. Cale turned. "It's coming. We have only minutes." They moved quickly through the tunnel. Strange sounds echoed from behind them. Not machines, not voices. Something in between. The walls grew warmer. Lights flickered red. Cale seemed to know the way, even in the dark dot. As they reached a small chamber at the end, Cale stopped. On the wall was a symbol, part Elysian, part human. He touched it, and a console appeared. He stared at it for a moment. "This is where it begins," he said softly. Ellen stepped forward. "What do you mean?" Cale looked at her with deep, tired eyes. "I wasn't just made to wait. I was made to decide. If I choose to protect the core, your kind will never know what's here. If I open it, everything the Elysians knew, their power, their memories will spread again. And the danger?" Ellen asked. Cale whispered. "The same war that destroyed them could return." The walls shook again. Dust filled the air. Cale stepped back. "I don't know what to choose yet, but the core is listening. And now, it knows we are here." Outside the tunnel, something heavy moved through the earth, like a giant waking from deep sleep. The chamber lights dimmed, and the sound of footsteps, loud, slow, not human, came closer. Asterisk, asterisk. Asterisk, asterisk. The chamber was dark now. Only a faint red light glowed from the ceiling, casting long shadows across the walls. The sound of footsteps, low, heavy, not human, echoed from the tunnels behind them. Captain Ellen kept her voice low. "Kale, we need to move. Now." Kale nodded without looking back. His eyes were fixed on the console, where strange alien symbols still flickered in the dim light. His hand hovered above it, but he didn't touch it again. "I can't let them reach the surface," he said. "Not yet." Lyra looked confused. "Who are they? What are we running from?" Kale turned to her, his face serious. "Not running. Avoiding. There are guardians below. Machines built by the Elysians. They protect the core. They were programmed to kill anything that comes close, unless it's me." "Then why don't you stop them?" Ellen asked. Kale looked away. "Because I'm not sure I should." Another loud thump echoed through the ground. The crew felt it in their feet, like something massive was walking just beneath them. Kale motioned for them to follow. "There's a safe place nearby, a control center. We can hide there." For now, the crew followed him into another tunnel. The walls here were smoother, made of silver like metal that reflected their faces as they passed. Strange lights pulsed gently beneath the surface, blue, green, then red. The deeper they went, the warmer it became. No one spoke for several minutes. Only the sound of their boots on the metal floor broke the silence. Finally, they entered a large circular room. It was filled with tall columns, glowing softly, and screens that showed star maps and unknown planets. In the center was a table made of light, floating just above the floor. Kale placed his hand on it. The table lit up. The door behind them sealed shut with a quiet hum. "We're safe for now," he said. Ellen looked around. "What is this place?" Kale walked slowly to one of the glowing columns. This was the heart of Elysian Command. They used it to watch the stars, track enemy fleets, and send warnings to their allies. It hasn't been touched in thousands of years. Asterisk, asterisk. Lyra stepped closer to the light table, watching the moving symbols. "It's beautiful." Kale didn't smile. "It's also dangerous. This system still holds control over the machines below. If I activate it fully, the Guardians will rise again, not just on this planet, but on others." Ellen stepped closer. To Kale, "We still don't understand. Why did they leave you here? What were you meant to do?" Kale took a deep breath. Before the war, the Elysians saw something coming, something worse than any enemy. They feared that knowledge itself could destroy galaxies, so they built the core to store everything, and locked it away. Then they created me. He looked down at his hands. "I'm not just a man, I'm a living key. Part of the core is inside me. If I die, the core stays locked forever." Silence filled the room. The crew stared at him in disbelief. Lyra asked, "And if you open it?" Kale didn't answer right away. Then he said quietly, "Then the galaxy changes forever." A soft beep came from the console. One of the screens flickered, showing a camera feed from outside. Dust clouds were rising. Something huge was climbing toward the surface. It had 4 legs, metal armor, and glowing red eyes. A guardian. Kale stepped toward the controls. "It's looking for you." Ellen looked at the screen. "Can you stop it?" "I can distract it," he said, "but only for a short time." He pressed a few symbols on the console. Somewhere in the distance, a deep metallic roar echoed through the chambers. The screen showed the Guardian turning its head, then running in another direction. "You have 10 minutes, Kale said. "Go back to your ship. If you leave now, you might escape." Ellen shook her head. "Not without you." Kale looked surprised. "You don't know what I am. I could be a threat to your entire world. But you haven't hurt us," she said. "You've tried to help." Kale smiled, just a little. "Maybe I still remember being human." Suddenly, another screen lit up. A second signal. Another pod, deep underground, was opening. Kale stared at it. "No, that's not possible." Ellen stepped closer. "What is it?" Kale whispered. "Another sleeper. Like me. Or worse." The screen showed the second chamber. Inside was something taller than a man, its skin pale and smooth, its eyes closed. The pod opened slowly. The being inside moved. Kale backed away from the screen. "They didn't tell me there was another." "This changes everything," Ellen asked. "Is it a threat?" Kale's voice was low. "If it wakes up, the Guardians will follow it. It was made to lead them." The lights flickered again. The floor shook slightly. Kale stared at the screen, then at the crew. "You need to decide," he said. "Leave now, or help me stop what's coming." Outside, deep under the ruins, the second sleeper opened its eyes and smiled. Kale stared at the screen in silence. The second pod had fully opened. Inside stood the other sleeper, tall, pale, silent. Its eyes were glowing faint gold, and its chest moved slowly, as if it was breathing for the first time in thousands of years. Lyra took a step back. "Who is that?" Kale didn't answer right away. His voice was tight when he finally spoke. "His name is Veka. He's not like me. He wasn't created to guard knowledge. He was created to control it." Ellen watched the screen closely. "Then why was he hidden? Why didn't you know about him?" Kale clenched his jaw. "Because they didn't trust even me." On the screen, Veka stepped out of his pod. The machines around him lit up instantly, reacting to his presence. Red warning lights began to spin. Deep beneath the planet's surface, systems started, activating old weapons, locked gates, buried networks of power. Kale turned away from the screen. "They built him to lead the Guardians. If he takes control, they'll rise again, not to protect, but to destroy." Lyra stepped toward him. "Can't you stop him?" Kale looked down. "Maybe, but only if I reach the core before he does." Captain Ellen moved quickly. "Then we're going with you." Kale looked surprised. "This isn't your fight." Ellen didn't blink. "It is now. We woke you up. We found this world. And if we leave now, who's going to warn the rest of the galaxy?" The ship crew prepared their gear, flashlights, weapons, and sensor tools. Kale touched the console again, and a new path opened up on the wall, a hidden staircase spiraling downward. As they entered the lower levels, the temperature dropped. The walls were made of strange black stone, cold to the touch. Faint lights blinked inside the rock like tiny stars trapped in the surface. The air smelled like dust and old metal. No one spoke. Kale led the way. He moved like he had walked these halls many times in the past. His footsteps were careful, quiet. He paused often, listening for sounds from below. After a long silence, Kale spoke. Before the end, the Elysians were afraid, not just of enemies, but of what they had created. They feared their own machines, their own knowledge. Lyra asked, "Then why didn't they destroy it?" Kale shook his head. "Because they couldn't. The core is alive. It learns, it grows. To destroy it would mean destroying everything they had ever built." The staircase ended in front of a massive gate. It was made of smooth stone with no visible seams. Symbols moved across its surface, shifting slowly like water. Kale placed his hand on the center. The gate glowed blue, then white, then slid open, with a heavy, deep sound. Inside was a vast chamber, round and silent. In the middle stood a giant sphere, the core. It floated above the ground, spinning slowly, covered in lights and markings. It pulsed with energy, as if breathing. The crew stood in awe. None of them had ever seen anything like it. Kale stepped forward. His voice was calm but heavy. "This is the memory of an entire race. Every invention, every idea, every fear, stored here." Suddenly, a sharp sound cut through the chamber. A high-pitched pulse. Kale froze. "He's close." The room around them began to change. The lights dimmed. Red lines lit up on the floor, forming strange shapes. From the far side of the chamber, another door opened. And Veka stepped in. He was tall, his movements smooth and graceful. His golden eyes scanned the room. He smiled faintly when he saw Kale. "So, they finally let you touch the core," he said in a soft voice. Kale stepped forward. "It wasn't meant for you." Veka tilted his head. "But you didn't stop me." Kale's fists tightened. "I will now." Veka walked slowly into the room. The crew raised their weapons, but Kale lifted a hand to stop them. "He won't attack. Not yet. He wants something first." Veka circled the core, admiring it like a precious jewel. "The Elysians were fools," he said. "They thought hiding this would save the galaxy. But what's the point of knowledge if it stays buried?" Ellen stepped forward. "What are you planning to do with it?" Veka looked at her like she was a curious animal. "I plan to wake it up. Let it remember everything. Let it grow again. Let it judge what deserves to live." Kale shouted, "You'll bring war again." Veka smiled. "Then let it come." Suddenly, the floor beneath them shook violently. The core flared with light, and from the tunnel behind Veka, the sound of marching began. The Guardians were coming. Kale turned to Ellen. "We have one chance. If I connect with the core first, I can lock him out. But I'll need help." Lyra looked at him. "What kind of help?" Kale's eyes met hers. You'll have to trust me, even if I stop being myself. Outside, metal footsteps grew louder, and the core began to wake. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. The core pulsed with light, glowing brighter with every second. Energy filled the chamber like a storm waiting to break. Kale stood close to it now, his face pale but steady. His eyes glowed faint blue, the same color as the symbols moving. Across the core surface, Vecca watched from the other side of the room, his expression calm, almost amused. Behind him, the sound of metal grew louder. The Guardians were close now. Their heavy footsteps echoed through the tunnels like a growing heartbeat. Captain Ellen spoke quickly. Kale, what do we need to do? Kale didn't turn around. You have to hold this room. If they get to the core while I'm connected, they'll kill all of us. Lyra tightened her grip on her weapon. How long do you need? Kale's voice was low. Not long, but it will feel like forever. He placed both hands on the glowing surface of the core. Instantly, a wave of light shot through the floor. The air shimmered, and Kale's body stiffened. His eyes went wide. He wasn't speaking anymore, not with words. The core had pulled his mind inside. The lights above flickered. Red sparks danced along the walls. Vecca took a slow step forward. They won't stop, he said softly. Even if you fight, the Guardians were built to protect me. Ellen raised her weapon. Then they'll have to go through us first. Vecca smiled, almost kindly. You're brave. I admire that. But you don't understand what's waking up. This isn't just knowledge. This is judgment. The core remembers every war, every betrayal. It knows what your kind has done. Lyra shouted, we're not here to fight. We came to explore, to learn. But learning has a cost, Vecca said. The room shook again. The Guardians had arrived. The section of the wall slid open, and 3 massive machines stepped through. They stood over 3 meters tall, their arms shaped like weapons, their eyes burning red. They scanned the chamber, then began to move toward the core. Ellen and her crew opened fire. Energy blasts lit up the room. Sparks flew. The Guardians were strong, their armor thick, their movements fast. But the crew had trained for this. They didn't run. They didn't panic. They held their ground. Lyra ducked behind a column, reloaded her weapon, and fired again. Kale, hurry. Kale didn't respond. He was still frozen, hands locked to the core, energy flowing through his body. Inside his mind, he was walking through a different world, a world of light and memory. He saw the rise of the Elysians, their cities, their ships, their dreams. He saw the wars, stars burning, entire planets lost. He saw himself and Vecca being created, one made to protect, the other to decide who survives. And now, he saw the choice the core was offering. In the chamber, Ellen was thrown to the ground by a blast. One of the Guardians aimed at her, then paused. A wave of blue light rippled from the core. The Guardian froze. Then, slowly, it turned and aimed at Vecca. Asterisk, asterisk. Vecca's eyes narrowed. No, he's doing it. Another wave of light spread from Kale. The second Guardian stopped moving. Its red eyes faded to black. Its weapons lowered. Kale was winning. Inside the core, Kale spoke without words. He told the core what he had seen in Elon's crew, their bravery, their refusal to run, their desire to protect life, not destroy it. He told the core that not all humans are the same. He showed it hope. The core listened. Outside, the third Guardian lowered its weapon. All 3 machines now stood still, silent, waiting. Vecca took a step back. You don't understand what you're doing. Kale finally opened his eyes. They now glowed like stars. His voice was deeper, layered, as if the core was speaking with him. I understand more than you ever did. Vecca tried to run toward the core, but one of the Guardians moved first. It blocked his path, then raised a heavy arm and slammed it down. The ground cracked. Vecca fell. The chamber fell silent again. Kale stepped back from the core. His hands dropped to his sides. He looked at Ellen and her team, his voice softer now. It's done. The core has seen your world, your choices. It has chosen to trust. For now. Ellen stood slowly. What about Vecca? Kale looked at the broken stone near the far wall. He'll sleep again, and the Guardians will watch him. Lyra asked, and you? What happens to you now? Kale looked up at the core. I'm still part of it. I always will be, but I'm more human now than I've ever been. Ellen nodded. Then come with us. Kale smiled. Not yet. The core needs someone to speak for it. to make sure the next ones who arrive are ready. They walked back through the long hallway, leaving the chamber behind. The Guardians didn't follow. They simply watched, silent and still. Outside, the alien sun was rising. The dead world felt less dead now, like something was alive under the surface. Something ancient. Something watching, and something waiting. Asterisk. The ship was quiet as they lifted off from the surface of the dead world. Dust scattered below, and the ancient ruins grew smaller in the distance. Ellen stood near the window, watching Cale one last time. He remained at the entrance of the ruins, surrounded by silence, his eyes fixed on the sky. Lyra whispered, "Do you think we'll ever see him again?" Ellen didn't answer at first. Then she said, "I think, if he wants us to." Inside the ruins, Cale returned to the core. The Guardians had returned to their rest, deep in the tunnels, standing like statues once more. The core pulsed quietly, but something was different now. It had begun to learn again. Cale sat on the cold floor, eyes closed. The core spoke to him, not in words, but in feelings, memories, fragments of forgotten history. He saw flashes, stars, dying, empires rising, other Guardians sleeping on faraway worlds. The Elysians had left more than just knowledge behind. They had left secrets, some buried deeper than even Cale had known. One image returned again and again, a symbol, not from this world, not Elysian, something older, darker. Cale opened his eyes. "You're warning me," he whispered. The core pulsed once in answer. Far away, aboard the ship, Lyra studied the data they had recovered. Thousands of lines of alien code, maps, names of other planets, other facilities. One name caught her eye, not in Elysian language, but in something else, something the core hadn't shown them. She called Ellen over. "Look at this. Have you seen this symbol before?" Ellen looked, her brow furrowed. "No, it's not on any of the maps." Lyra pointed at the strange planet marked in the data. "Whatever this place is, Cale never mentioned it." Ellen stared at the screen. "Then maybe even he doesn't know." Lyra nodded slowly. "Or maybe he can't remember." Back on the planet, Cale paced the chamber. His thoughts were not his own anymore. He could feel the core inside his mind now, not controlling him, but guiding him, showing him places that no human had ever seen, warning him of something hidden, something wrong. He stopped in front of the wall, placed his hand against the stone. It shifted, revealing a passage he hadn't known existed. He stepped inside. It was a narrow tunnel, barely wide enough to walk. Faint lights lit the walls like veins running through the stone. The deeper he went, the colder it became. His breath began to fog. Then he reached it, a door unlike any other in the ruins. It was made of black metal, smooth, no markings. Cale touched it. The ship was quiet as they lifted off from the surface of the dead world. Dust scattered below, and the ancient ruins grew smaller in the distance. Ellen stood near the window, watching Cale one last time. He remained at the entrance of the ruins, surrounded by silence, his eyes fixed on the sky. Lyra whispered, "Do you think we'll ever see him again?" Ellen didn't answer at first. Then she said, "I think, if he wants us to." Inside the ruins, Cale returned to the core. The Guardians had returned to their rest, deep in the tunnels, standing like statues once more. The core pulsed quietly, but something was different now. It had begun to learn again. Cale sat on the cold floor, eyes closed. The core spoke to him, not in words, but in feelings, memories, fragments of forgotten history. He saw flashes, stars, dying, empires rising, other Guardians sleeping on faraway worlds. The Elysians had left more than just knowledge behind. They had left secrets, some buried deeper than even Cale had known. One image returned again and again, a symbol, not from this world, not Elysian, something older, darker. Cale opened his eyes. "You're warning me," he whispered. The core pulsed once in answer. Far away, aboard the ship, Lyra studied the data they had recovered. Thousands of lines of alien code, maps, names of other planets, other facilities. One name caught her eye, not in Elysian language, but in something else, something the core hadn't shown them. She called Ellen over. "Look at this. Have you seen this symbol before?" Ellen looked, her brow furrowed. "No, it's not on any of the maps." Lyra pointed at the strange planet marked in the data. "Whatever this place is, Cale never mentioned it." Ellen stared at the screen. "Then maybe even he doesn't know." Lyra nodded slowly. Or maybe, he can't remember. Back on the planet, Kale paced the chamber. His thoughts were not his own anymore. He could feel the core inside his mind now, not controlling him, but guiding him, showing him places that no human had ever seen, warning him of something hidden, something wrong. He stopped in front of the wall, placed his hand against the stone. It shifted, revealing a passage he hadn't known existed. He stepped inside. It was a narrow tunnel, barely wide enough to walk. Faint lights lit the walls like veins running through the stone. The deeper he went, the colder it became. His breath began to fog. Then he reached it, a door unlike any other in the ruins. It was made of black metal, smooth, no markings. Kale touched it. Asterisk. It opened. Inside was a small room. In the center stood another pod, older than his, more damaged, but not empty. A body rested inside, still, silent, but different. The skin was pale gray, the eyes closed. Symbols were carved into its chest. Not Elysian, not human. Kale stepped closer. What are you? The core was silent now, as if it didn't want him here. Kale reached out, and the figure inside opened its eyes. They glowed with a dark violet light. Kale jumped back, but the figure didn't move. It just stared. Then a voice filled the room, not spoken, but heard inside Kale's head. You are too late. Kale's heart pounded. What do you mean? The figure inside the pod didn't blink. It didn't breathe, but its presence filled the room like a storm. They're already awake, it said. Kale's mouth went dry. Who? The voice replied. The ones who taught the Elysians to build, the ones who gave them fire, and waited in the dark while they fell. Kale stepped back. The room felt smaller now, the air heavy. Why now? The voice whispered. Because you opened the door. Far above, on the ship, alarms began to beep. Lyra stared at the screen. We've got movement. A signal. From deep space. Ellen asked Kale. No, Lyra said. Something else. Something huge. She turned to Ellen, eyes wide. It's coming toward us. Kale stared at the figure in the pod. The violet glow faded, and the eyes closed again. The door behind him shut on its own. Kale whispered to the dark. What have I done? Outside, across the stars, something ancient had begun to move. It had waited for 10,000 years. Now, it was no longer sleeping. Asterisk, asterisk. The stars outside the ship dimmed as something massive moved across deep space. The crew watched in silence, their screens filled with a growing shadow. It wasn't a ship. It wasn't a planet. It was something else. Captain Ellen stood frozen. How big is it? Lyra replied quietly. Bigger than anything we've ever seen. On the dead world below, Kale stood in front of the sealed black door. The room behind it was now silent. The ancient figure no longer spoke, but Kale could still feel its voice in his mind. A presence, watching, cold, patient. He hurried back through the hidden tunnel, reaching the core chamber. The core pulsed, faster now, its surface flickering with strange, unreadable symbols. Kale placed his hand on it. What did you hide from me? He whispered. The core didn't answer, but an image appeared in his mind. The same symbol from the pod, the same violet eyes, and the same warning. They're already awake. Kale fell to his knees. He understood now. The Elysians had not created their knowledge alone. They had been guided, helped by something far older, something not meant to be understood. And when they became too powerful, too curious, that ancient force had silenced them, not with war, but with silence. The core had been more than a memory vault. It had been a lock, a prison, and Kale had broken it. He turned toward the exit. I have to warn them. The tunnel shook. A guardian stepped out from the shadows, but not one Kale recognized. Its design was older, rougher. Its eyes glowed violet. Kale's voice tightened. No, you're not one of mine. The guardian didn't speak. It raised its arm and fired. Kale jumped aside, the blast striking the stone wall behind him. He rolled across the floor, grabbed a weapon from the fallen guard post, and fired back. The shot hit the guardian in the chest, but it didn't fall. It just kept moving. On the ship, Lyra shouted, "Something's breaking the atmosphere. It's heading for the ruins." Ellen gripped the console. "We need to go back now, but we just left. If Kale's still alive, he's the only one who can stop this." The ship turned sharply, re-entering the planet's sky. Below, Kale ran through the ancient halls as the violet-eyed guardian chased him. The ruins were no longer quiet. Walls shook. Lights sparked. Ancient systems turned on, not in blue, but in dark purple. It was spreading. Kale reached the main chamber. The core glowed violently now, as if in pain. He placed both hands on it again, forcing his thoughts into it. Fight back, he whispered. You chose to trust. Don't give up now. The core flared with white light. The guardian behind Kale froze, then exploded. Kale fell to the floor, breathing hard. The core dimmed, its energy fading fast. He heard the ship land above, footsteps running. Ellen and Lyra rushed in, weapons ready. You're alive, Lyra said. ***. Kale nodded slowly. Barely. The core's failing. Something's overriding it. Ellen asked, what was that thing? Kale looked at them, eyes dark. It wasn't a guardian. It was a messenger. Lyra asked, a messenger, for what? Kale looked toward the sky. For whatever's coming. The ground shook again. Dust fell from the ceiling. Outside, in orbit, the shadow continued to grow. It had no engines, no lights, just an enormous structure, moving silently, watching. Ellen stepped beside Kale. What do we do now? Kale closed his eyes. He could still feel the core inside him, weak, but alive. And something else, a connection, a signal from far away. More worlds, more prisons, more sleepers. Kale opened his eyes. We stop running. We find the others. We warn them, and we prepare. Lyra asked, prepare for what? Kale didn't blink. For a war that started before any of us were born. Outside, in the dark between stars, ancient voices began to whisper once again, and the dead world was no longer sleeping.